Hello, my name is Mandy. I'm with the Earth Regeneration Alliance, and today I'm really excited to go over an overview of what is really emerging as the Earth Regeneration Alliance ecosystem, the ERA ecosystem. And apologies if there's some glare on the board. I'll take a picture of this board later and we can upload that so that you can see it more clearly, but just really wanting to kind of illustrate the aliveness in this and how it's really showing itself. It's been really exciting, and this is really the first time we've really had such a clear vision of what this is. I don't typically use notes when I present, at least not a lot, but today there's quite a few specific details and I want to make sure that I get as many of them in as possible. However, before we move into all of this, I would really love to read a poem that was written by someone who's very close to all of this. She wrote it in January, and it's just been a really grounding piece for me to keep coming back to. And so I would love to invite you when I read this. Well, first, let me give just a little bit of a brief framing. So this poem really speaks to the more beautiful future our hearts know is possible. That's some wording from Charles Eisenstein. And it's about this world that we know can happen. It's just we're stuck in this industrial system right now. And it also speaks to the truth that each of us has a role in bringing that world into being. And that's exactly what the ERA ecosystem is rooted in. So I want to invite you to just take a couple of deep breaths, close your eyes if you want, and I'm going to read this poem and then we'll jump in. All right. It is called The Agreement Beneath All Names. We do not begin with treaties. We do not begin with borders. We begin beneath language, where breath remembers breath. Here the earth is not divided. She is listening. Every footstep is a conversation. Every heartbeat, a vote for continuance. Every difference, a color the spectrum required. Let us agree not to be the same, but to be present. Let the one who carries fire sit beside the one who carries water. Let the one who knows silence teach the one who knows speed. Let the one who has been broken be believed without needing proof. Peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is the refusal to abandon one another while learning how to hold it. We lay down the ancient reflex to dominate what we do not understand. We lift instead the older instinct to witness. Here, no soul is surplus. No grief is wasted. No voice arrives too late. We remember the ground beneath all nations is the same breathing body. The sky above all prayers does not choose sides. So we choose again, each morning, each meeting, each moment of heat, to include instead of react, to respond instead of react, to include instead of conquer, to listen long enough for the deeper truth to surface. May our children inherit not our certainties, but our courage to coexist. May our disagreements become doorways, our histories compost, our love wide enough to hold the many without erasing the one. This is the quiet agreement the planet has been waiting for. I will not perfect you. I will not erase you. I will walk with you while we learn how to belong to the same earth at the same time. And so it is spoken, and so it is practiced, and so it begins again. We feel very honored to be doing this work. It is a small core team of 5 right now, and we've really felt called to create the core infrastructure pieces to hold and protect and align all of the amazing work that's happening out there, because there is so much good going on. People and entities and orgs and all these different things like wanting and trying and really working towards moving back into alignment with all of life and really, again, stepping back into that relational co-creation with Mother Nature. And so I want to just give a little brief aspect of how this all came to be. And it's really the realization, and it's why the ERA ecosystem is coming into being. After nearly a decade in this work, like many others in this kind of work, I kept coming up against seemingly intractable problems. It was extremely frustrating and confusing, because it was like, so many people want to do amazing things, and they are, and it's just not gaining the traction or the flow or the level of scaling out that it really needs to root us back into the relationship that we so all desire with each other and with all of life. And so towards the end of 2024, the real blocks, I mean, I ran into a lot of blocks, various things throughout different aspects of policy work or business stuff or nonprofit stuff, whatever. And then it just suddenly and very clearly dawned on me. It was like, we need to just leave this current system, stop fighting this current system, and take all of that energy that so many people are using to try to like force change into it or try to protest what's happening. I mean, I understand that, and it's important, and think about how much energy is going at that right now and what we could do together if we went, you know what, we're done with this because it's not working and it was never meant to work for life. Instead, let's go over here. Let's do something that is aligned with those dormant seeds that are in each of us, that remembers what it feels like. I mean, it might still be a little confusing up here because so many of us have been disconnected from how life actually works in relationship and collaboration. We've been disconnected for so long now in these current systems that keep us siloed and keep us competing, that we've forgotten, really, you know? So this is really a remembering, because remember, this is not new. Indigenous cultures all over the world practice this kinship-based way of being, and it's because they are in relationship with Mother Earth. It's these current extractive systems that have disconnected us from those very life-giving systems. And so, yeah, the realization was like, fighting the current system will never work. However, leaving that system and co-creating a new and ancient life-aligned system, now that will work. So as I was saying, the current system was never designed to serve life. It's only designed to extract from life and gain profit for the few, really. And the fractures that's stemming from, those occurred a long time ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago. And the ripples of those and those devastating impacts is what most of us have been born into today and what we are living with. And the main ones are separation from nature, and the subsequent domination over nature and extraction from Mother Nature. Most notably, the agricultural revolution about 10 to 12,000 years ago is where that one of those original fractures occurred. And then also the enclosure of the commons, and that leading to hierarchical ownership and like those structures, top-down dominance-based structures, and the subsequent global colonization that happened all over the world. And critically, this is a very important thing for us to remember, is that most of us were simply born into this. We didn't choose this. We were born into this. And it was kind of like, why does this not feel good? What is going on? I've been in that all my life too. And then once we started, co-creating this, I was like, this is amazing. This feels really good. It's like, my first awakening in all of this was biodynamics. And that's what I was like, okay, now I'm understanding like what feels so intuitive to me, and I know that most of us have that in us. Another really key thing is to realize, like, no single person engineered all of this devastation that's happening. It's just that we've reached a large globalized scale of this industrial system that treats life like a machine instead of the complex living being that life is. And that's where, we get stuck. And so all of these really well-intentioned, initiatives or projects or money or human energy or whatever that's trying to like, come on, wake up, industrial system, let's like get going, let's do good stuff, because we're all wanting basically the same thing, which is like, life and love and community and healthy food and land and air and water and relationships and all these things and Mother Nature, And yet this continues to just swipe us away like annoying flies, right? And yet flies are so critical to everything. And it's like, and anyway, I don't know why I just talked about that. I can go down so many rabbit holes, but what I want to go into is like, this is going to seem like a lot. I just want to say that up front, just to, that's why I want to start with that poem. It's like, let's ground a little bit because this is a lot. And it's going to be something that as we really see this thing and how it's coming together, we start to see that the various leaking, like extractive leaks that are happening, whether it's financial or like good intentions and a business gets bought out and co-opted and all these things, what this is really working towards and aiming for is to close all of those leaks so that it is an enclosed, protected, sovereign system that allows us to move into the relationship level of being again that we're all really desiring. So it basically what it does is it moves us out of that siloed competition and into this relational collaboration. And it's so exciting. And so we really see the era ecosystem as fertile ground for this, that this movement has been needing for a long time. And so, our whole thing is that it's like, it's always emerging and always evolving. We know that, and we're just moving with the energy, and that has been working brilliantly. But there's enough of it that's shown itself that we're like, okay, we're ready to go now. So the foundation of this, very foundation of this, remember when I talked about separation from nature and then this enclosure of the commons and this ownership paradigm? The foundation of this ecosystem is non-ownership, moving us back into collective stewardship of the commons. Because once we started as individuals laying claim to certain, pieces of land or water or whatever, that started to fracture something that shouldn't be owned, which is life. So it's moving us back into that non-ownership place. And hold on, go over there. Yeah, Z-Bear's really excited about this. Okay. And so it's really about moving all energies back into the commons and back into right relationship with all of life. And so what I'm going to start drawing here is, again, remember, this is a very high level overview. Deeper dive videos are going to be coming that are going to explain each node in the ecosystem. And really what this is that it creates pathways back into relationship and alignment with all of life through aggregation vessels, which are all the circles, and then we'll be seeing alignment pathways that emerge in each of those. And again, it's based on the fact that humans really want the same thing. Like, it's finding that common ground, and the fact that that is there really inside all of us, that's why I believe we can do this. Absolutely. And I want to say, we hold the era ecosystem as the vessel for the emergence of a fully closed loop, regenerative ecosystem, one that at its core has the conditions for life to flourish. This is not about charity. This is about this like regeneration and connection being the result of the system. And so we're going to start with the first node, which is the era commons right here. All right. So the era commons, because remember, like this, one of those original fractures was starting to lose access to the commons, because of the enclosure of the commons that happened. And so once we moved into that ownership paradigm, this got fractured, and this is the core of it. So when we have this foundation of non-ownership at the core of this whole thing, which I'll show you how that plays in, and then we focus on energy moving through the commons as this hub of connection and funding and resources and tools. Now we've got something we can really move with and quickly, because what this allows is basically a blueprint that can be scaled at any level, but not scaling up like current industrial top-down structures, scaling out like mycelial networks, like those nodes and networks in the soil that are, transferring nutrients and information and water and all these things to all the root systems. That's really what this is allowing us to do again. It's like, this is like the mother tree, So what's cool about this is that the Era Commons makes the funding and resources and tools available to regenerate communities and all of life. It's meant to hold everything that we're needing to migrate back into this new and ancient life-aligned system. And we can think of this as like all of the things that are really desiring to be in the commons, whether it's funding, educational resources, tech tools, aligned scientists doing really amazing scientific work that can be held in something aligned with all of life. Verification entities, storytellers like musicians and artists and podcasters and documentarians. Those are the illuminators and the emergence holders, the story sharing aspect that is so critical. Also aligned capital partners and current system experts like law and finance and business and ag and all of that that know the current aspects of the current system that we're in and can help as we move back into this collective way of being. How do we start bridging the current ways that we have to do things into what is possible with all of life? So the commons exist to support and facilitate decentralization and relocalization and diversification and sovereignty as well, through community-led projects and initiatives. So that is the commons, and a big piece of this, especially at the beginning, is you're going to see the funding flows and how this thing is just like filling in all of these gaps that so many people trying to do good stuff, or small businesses or nonprofits, and it's like everybody's getting stuck in these places where it's like they are just not able to collaborate or get the support that they need, and so they either end up getting co-opted or they fail, right? It's like that's kind of the divergent thing that happens, and this allows the support infrastructure that everybody's really needing to do all of this cool stuff. So next in the node is the Era Purpose Trust. It is a 365-year Nevada public benefit trust. It is a purpose trust. But what's cool is it's mission locked for 365 years. And let me just write that up here. Okay, so Era Purpose Trust. Okay, so again, non-ownership, right? So this is owned by no one. And it is, so because it's owned by no person or entity that's a human entity, it's owned by all of life, which includes humans and the greater web of life, right? All the way from soil microorganisms to whales. Like, this is everyone's, so that we can move back into alignment. And the purpose of the Purpose Trust is to realign humanity's relationship with all of life. And I want to read the actual purpose that's in the document, because we have really cool things like holistic thinking and regenerative consciousness and rights of nature. Like, all these things are written into the Purpose Trust. So the purpose of the Era Purpose Trust is to realign humanity's relationship with all life, remembering that we are not separate from Earth. Rather, we are expressions of her living intelligence. By consciously stewarding living systems and aligned solutions that restore balance and beauty to ecosystems and communities, we participate in the Great Return, a reawakening of humanity to our sacred role as co-creative stewards of life. Through this remembrance, we open the path to collective enlightenment, where all beings thrive in harmony and consciousness itself evolves in service to life and love. That's written into the Purpose Trust. So, what can this amazing Purpose Trust hold? It is very flexible. It's designed to be flexible and able to help us navigate this transition, especially the great wealth transfer that's happening right now. And I'll speak about that here in a minute. But it's able to hold real estate portfolios, businesses, IP, land, whatever is needed to be held at this level, because this is a bigger level. We'll get into later the bioregional purpose trusts that have the ability to hold like local pieces of land and whatnot. Same with businesses and everything. And it's designed to be flexible. So this is never meant to become a top-down hierarchical system. Community governance and scaled out participation is what keeps it from sliding back into these oppressive top-down current industrial system ways of treating life like a machine. So this keeps us in that life-aligned way of being. It also, as I was saying before with the great wealth transfer, it serves as a regenerative succession planning pathway. So this is where we, especially for large assets, to convey that wealth into the commons to become this is just one giant pool of funding to start being able to fund the work that needs to happen on the ground, or that is happening and needs, support, right? It's like either hanging by a thread because of a grant that's like, either getting cut or running out, that kind of a thing. And so this is what's cool, is that it allows us to move into serving life and regeneration rather than the potential for wealth to flow back into extraction. And so I'm going to just draw this as like the alignment pathway, because this is really the regenerative succession pathway. And here is where funding can go directly into the commons. Again, as a resource for everyone, because no one owns this. This is moving energy back into the commons. Okay, so next node is the living commons. I know this is a little bit confusing because we have era commons and we have the living commons, but you will see the difference here. So here is the living commons, also known as TLC. And we're really excited about the living commons. First of all, just to mention, the Era Purpose Trust was signed into existence on August 8th of last year, 2025. So it's ready to go. And we are building out the regenerative succession planning pathway as a business that will be owned by the Purpose Trust. The Living Commons is the first LLC to be gifted as a business to the Purpose Trust. We launched this on January 3rd of this year, 2026. And it's super exciting because basically what we have found in this as well is there's a disconnect between the consciousness movement, like spirituality and everything, and the regenerative movement of like regenerative ag. And it's like, this is what's really bringing those two things together. And so kind of a tagline for it is a community for earth-caring people who feel the current global system's failing. And the statement for it is the Living Commons is a refuge and stewardship hub where inner healing and earth healing become one, nourishing inner resilience, restoring purposeful belonging, and co-creating life-aligned systems together. So again, this is where the spiritual and consciousness movements meet the regenerative movement. And it's a really cool space because it's a place for multi-generational conversation and nervous system regulation. Like there's a lot of really cool breathwork things that are happening in there. And so that's another thing that we see with the anxiety happening with all of the things that are coming apart in the current systems. And it's like, we need a place to breathe together and to kind of re-ground ourselves and then move in a way that feels more stable, as ourselves, but also together. Because today's world is a lot. So this also helps us find that common ground. And we want to point out that TLC is hosted on on Hilo, which is a really amazing community platform. Their statement is Hilo is an open source nonprofit, and is driven by participatory design with real-world groups at the forefront of regenerative agriculture, community resilience, peer learning, equity, inclusive capital, and place-based organizing. So it's just, we're so excited to be hosted by Hilo. They're such an aligned entity and they're just fantastic to work with. And so remember the alignment pathway thing. So this is another alignment pathway and it involves both money and human energy. So we'll draw this, and this is coming in as well to the commons. And so the membership for this, like we're doing as much as we can to make it as accessible as possible. And so it's $1 minimum a month to be involved in the Living Commons. So you could technically be involved in the Living Commons for $12 a year. And because all funding flows into the commons, we're asking that if people are able to pay even a little bit more or a lot more, please do, because all this is going to do is just amplify what we can do with everything that's coming. So And I want to speak to as well the fact that we have a really amazing entity that we're working with to keep our funding really, sorry, I'm trying to figure out where I put that in my notes, really aligned. Here we go. Okay. And transparent, because we're really focused on like that open, integrity-based, transparent way of working with funding. So we're utilizing a really cool online tool called Open Collective, and their statement is that it was founded by idealists to make online communities more sustainable. What began as a tool for open source and grassroots groups has grown into a global infrastructure for transparency, collaboration, and shared financial stewardship. So as when I say like everything's going into the commons, you can see this, like it's online, it's live, it's like a moving, budget. You can see exactly what money's coming in and what's going out. And right now, the live financial pathway is from the Living Commons via membership. And what's really cool, like I said, it's also an alignment, place, and common ground for human energy as well, because just like financial energy out there, whether it's philanthropy or investment or whatever, it's very fragmented and it's trying to find its way into life-aligned ways of supporting like Mother Earth and humans and all life, but it's having a hard time because these kinds of big systems don't really exist. And so with human energy as well, there's especially younger generations, they're kind of like, wait, so everything's falling apart, but I'm supposed to like find a job in that? No, like that's what this is for. So and again, this is all emerging and amazing. We have an amazing network of, different orgs and people who are doing all this very cool work. Remember, we're just holding the space for emergence, but we're not doing the pieces of like community groups on the ground or regeneration or food hubs. Like we're just wanting to help facilitate and support that. So there are also these tracks that we created inside of TLC that allow us to move back into life alignment. Like, what does that mean? And it's really utilizing the kinship worldview, which is what all indigenous cultures are based on, and moving back into that relational way of being. So there's a life aligned track, there's a steward track. What does it mean to be a steward of life? Bioregional track, because there's a huge bioregional movement that's really starting to bubble. And it's ready to go. And so what is that? And then also the planetary regeneration track as well. And so what's cool is after completing the tracks, TLC members are able to step into like working with partners that are doing things like regenerative entrepreneurship, projects, different initiatives, all of that kind of stuff to start building these different pieces and really make sure that people are supported through mentorship, through funding, whatever, and through community to really make these things real. And also the TLC calendar is open for aligned people and organizations to host stuff. So like workshops and presentations and series, and like we want to do like little mini concerts, and we also want to do in-person stuff. Like right now it's a lot online, but we can do both. Book clubs, discussion clubs, whatever. And so we have some really fantastic people that we're chatting with right now who are looking at different things that they're excited to present inside of TLC. So they're going through various aspects of alignment before they start hosting inside of TLC, but that's what's possible in there. And what's so cool, again, because of the commons, once we reach the level of funding that's going to be happening in here, because it's going to be a lot, because it's coming from so many places, and some really big places like the regenerative succession pathway, that it spills over, right? It's like, yeah, core stewards are taken care of, and then as people are starting to host different things in TLC, for example, and they need, like, that's another thing, is like, if you need financial support, that's a conversation we can have because it's money that's in the commons. Another huge purpose of this is to be able to fund on the ground bioregional financing facilities starting up and regenerative projects and initiatives to do like emergency restoration work, regeneration work, that kind of stuff. So, all right, so that was that node. Now we're moving into rooting local. So, rooting local is here. And this is going to be, and we're currently in the process of filing, this is a 501c3. And we are currently looking for an aligned fiscal sponsor. We do have one that we are in chats with that we're really hoping is gonna happen because it would be just perfect. And so, yes, we'll have a fiscal sponsor so that we have, the bigger entity that has, the decades of experience and the alignment and all the things. And we're also doing the 501c3 as well, so we can start building that credibility for this nonprofit. And let's see. And so we're really working on an inaugural program that we will do through Rooting Local, which is building the infrastructure for kids to eat local nutrient-dense food in school. And I want to say we are very aware of all of the barriers. I know there are so many orgs and philanthropists working on how do we get healthy, nutrient-dense, local, regenerative food into schools. There's a lot of barriers, and we totally know that. And so we're just wanting to help coordinate and do flow funding, because look, we've got flow funding coming in here. Flow funding goes out as well because it just does this, right? I mean, that's how Mother Nature functions. So that's what is going to happen here. And so, so again, this is still an overview. We'll do dedicated node videos for each of these so we can do deep dives, and you'll see other people who are in the ERA ecosystem who can speak to those specifically. But yeah, kind of the activations overview, because what we're going to do is move this into we're planning on going on the road later this year, July, August. And the idea is to really Jared, Ben, and I want to travel with a content team that allows us to really, gain that energy just by moving across the US, right? And it's we're really focusing in on a specific bioregion that we're in talks with right now, who's really doing amazing stuff and is working in the realm of food hubs and the school district and all of that. And so it's we want to help support that. And so so that's what we're looking to do is as an initial kind of launch or activation is this national activation campaign, so that we can do crowdfunding campaigns for food hubs in this specific bioregion. They already have 10 food hubs that they're working with, which is just amazing. And yet we know that a lot of food hubs they're being underutilized and under supported. And so they end up not doing what a food hub really could do and what they want to do, which is they can hold so much of the coordination and marketing and infrastructure stuff for farmers and ranchers, so that farmers and ranchers have some relief and can just focusing on what they want to do, farming and ranching. So it's each of these, the way this thing moves is very nodal. It's there's these focuses of energy where things can connect in, and that's how nature functions. So it's really exciting because so Rooting Local, and I'll just draw the rest of this in. So, okay, so let me just draw in this part. So this is, I'm gonna put BFF, biofi.earth, BIOFI.earth is the entity. It's connected with Buckminster Fuller Institute, and they're really working on this model. It's fantastic, and they're working with various groups all over the place trying to get this going. And so we really want to flow funding to the BFF to then support as the local systems really get the kind of support that they need. This is the food hub that supports farmers and ranchers and all of the food production stuff. This would be and this is just our first, focus, but this is the school district. And this is going to be kind of the next stage that's going to be centered around a chamber of commerce that is a node for local businesses. So here's the cool thing with Rooting Local. As the alignment pathway, funding through this, we're kind of calling it a 1% for kids fund based on the example of 1% for the planet. But what's cool is we can crowdfund through this. We can also bring in philanthropy into Rooting Local, and then we can support the bioregional financing facility. So I'm going to put an arrow here because that is acting as a similar node to this. It's just in that bioregion, which then can support hyperlocal nodes. And in those hyperlocal nodes of a community area, then you've got things like this that we can start doing. And this is not where it stops. Like, this is just to focus on some really critical pieces in a community to get these pathways like really happening and see it cycling and being supported. Then it can move into like all kinds of institutional purchasing and different aspects of setting up co-ops that are community owned. Like the BFF is going to have a purpose trust of its own, so that it can also hold, for example, a rancher who wants to retire and doesn't know like how to have their land still, you know, stewarded for something healthy for the community instead of getting bought out and developed. This BFF in this area can hold that. And so it's literally a very, very similar, like basically the same kind of structure as what we're doing here. And so here's what's cool is like money can come into here from Rooting Local as it's gaining the philanthropic funds and also doing the crowdfunding. Because what we want to do is when we bring in the crowdfunding, doing this tour, where we're doing like, you know, videos on YouTube and all these different things so that people can really see like what's really needed and what it's going to take to make this work. We can flow that funding into the BFF, and then the BFF can give that to the food hub, which can then support the farmers and ranchers who are needing it. And, you know, this will all be community led via council governments and all this kind of stuff. And the school district side, like when it's ready, we can also do a bridge grant that we would give to the BFF, and then that would go to the school district to bridge the premium cost between local regenerative food and the current subsidized industrial cheap food, falsely cheap, but cheap financially, that food that is currently being purchased. And so it would help bridge that cost for the school district. So that's the idea, is to connect these two, get the funding going that needs to happen. And then, remember the 1% fund I was talking about? We can do that on a national level with having, you know, big businesses, big entities be pledging financially to that fund to support this in different bioregions. But then in the bioregion, we can connect with the local businesses via the chamber, and they can set up a local 1% or whatever it's going to be, a local fund that goes into the BFF that then is doing similar things. And here's the thing, the whole goal is to make sure that we're moving into sovereignty and security and access. And we don't want to follow the current system structure of being dependent on something that could get cut off like funding. So these are just the first couple of steps, but the one that really locks it in is what the BFF can do with the Purpose Trust in terms of holding some of these businesses. Might be like, you know what? Once there's enough money flowing in here, a small business could either be purchased or it could be gifted to the BFF. This business owner is still taken care of, and it's now part of their community, like bioregional financial circulation. So now you've got something that has constant income because it's a small business and a for-profit, and then that is starting to cycle funding through the BFF. And then it's really creating that sovereignty piece. So it's like, this is all kind of like stepping back into this way of being in hyper-local nodes and this bioregional level so that we can have the kind of like local and bioregional, regional food distribution systems that are trying to happen all over the place, but they're hitting different snags, right? And here's the other thing. With Rooting Local as the 501c3 for ERA, look at what we can do. Ooh, that's exciting. Boom. So now we've broken the cycle of nonprofits being dependent on grants or philanthropy or whatever and never really knowing year to year what's going to happen. No, we've got to move out of that. And philanthropy wants that. Like impact investing wants that. Systemic investing wants that. Philanthropy, donor advised funds, they're looking for this. Here it is. And we're not this is not the only thing that needs to happen. Like we can figure out how to scale this, like, you know, in these local areas that create the same kind of situation, in like bigger regions, bioregions, and also at like bigger national and global levels. So again, like all this money that's coming in can support this if it needs it, but it also has its own money coming in from, donor advised funds and philanthropy that can also do this. So it just creates it like insulates it from current system design flaws in terms of the industrial extractive system. So rooting local, we're really excited about. And let me see if I missed anything. Oh, okay, very, very important. So the idea of this, as you could see from the way I described it, it's like our goal is not to go in and do this. No, like we want to empower and uplift what's already happening, because this needs to be community led. This is not for us to do. We just want to have this ecosystem support this ecosystem, but it's still community led and all of that. So it means it's rooted in local context and culture and ecology as well. I really like the term biocultural regions, because it's combining the ecology and the culture that is so important to really start seeing at, how the soft defining lines are going to happen that still allow flow, and they're not rigid like they are right now with like current state and county and country lines. And another really important thing at the foundation of both how ERA functions, but also how we want to work with these bioregional financing facilities, is to implement and embed Savory Institute's holistic management in the core of this. Because what's really cool about that, I was fortunate enough to get trained in it back in 2023, and it was one of the things that really shifted my thinking in terms of everything that I learned in that program: ecosystem processes, holistic management, context, holistic decision making. And what it does is we can implement this with participating food hubs and the related infrastructure and the BFFs in order to make sure that the community can move into holistic decision making and context for them, because now it's bringing together entities, well, especially like here, that don't normally collaborate like that, right? And so it helps to avoid like the possible pitfalls of like backsliding into the current industrial system or whatever. But it's a really important way to start helping our minds that have been, for most of us, we've had this, it's like the colonizing of the mind. Like we've had this indoctrination of like siloed, competitive, extractive, machine-like ways of being and thinking, and that's not at all how we're meant to function. And so this holistic management framework really allows us to look at the context and like make these bigger decisions that are really considering all of the potential ripple effects and how it affects the whole, and is including all the decision makers. It's really amazing. So so let's see, was there anything else here? I think that was pretty much it. So once, actually I think I kind of already talked about this. Yeah, I already talked about that. Okay, next node is spend for regen. Now so again, this one was August of last year, this was January of this year. This one is happening right now. This one is on deck. So spend for regen is another business that will be owned by the Era Purpose Trust. And what's really exciting about this is that it's creating the ability to reroute our everyday choices into life-aligned systems, again, into here. So it's a business that's currently in process, and we're looking at two main focuses. One is an app that will facilitate what we have as kind of like a website right now that's available through the Living Commons as the Spend for Regen place that you can enter in. So it's going to a website, but our goal is to create an app so that it's more easy to access, but it's utilizing affiliate links and like referral partners to have a percentage of profit of each purchase, like Amazon, for example, flow off of that into the commons. So the idea with this is that it's kind of like taking current spending habits where you might not feel the greatest about purchasing on Amazon or some of these other really big entities, and everybody's really busy and there's a lot of stuff to trying to figure out what to get instead. And so it's a way to start aligning right away your spending into regeneration, because what this does is allows us to co-create the systems that we really want to see and the kinds of local, healthy, regenerative, non-toxic products and food and services that we really want to see in our communities. This is what's going to allow that to happen. So it allows us to use current big industry spending to, based on category in Amazon, for example, it's like anywhere from 1 to 10% of that flows off as an affiliate revenue into the commons. And also what's really cool is we've got kind of like a bridge level as well, like big entities, but they're doing more aligned stuff like Zero Waste Store, Earth Hero, Thrive, some of those like bigger entities, right? Happy Earth. I mean, there's some really cool ones out there that are doing really cool stuff. And so again, another way to start aligning that, like you might be someone who's like, okay, I'm really happy that I'm already supporting Regeneration through my spending on some of these big platforms like Amazon. And I have a little bit of time today. I'm going to look for a couple of things I would normally order on Amazon, and I'm going to check out Zero Waste Store and see what I think about that. And then you're still funding Regeneration because percentages of that, like affiliate partnerships or links, come into here as well. And what's really neat on the Link Hub or on this app, once it becomes an app, is starting to showcase like what are the kinds of hyper local businesses that we really want to start being able to support and buy from for our own health and for the planet's health. And so we showcase that on there as well. So because those are going to be the ones that we're really utilizing what we're bringing off of this to fund, because those are going to be like a local refill shop that's non-toxic and sourcing locally, and it's non-plastic as well. So like you go fill up your hand soap, that kind of a thing. Those are the kinds of entities that right now are struggling because they're more expensive, probably, potentially, and they're outside of the way the current system functions. So we're just looking for, the way that we can start creating that support structure for those entities to really thrive. And so, so those are the ways that we can utilize that app. And the other thing we can do here is a credit card that every purchase on that, gas, whatever, plane tickets, now some of that can come in here as well. So that's the alignment pathway, is the app and the credit card. And boom, here's more money that we are just basically crowdfunding by way of how we currently are shopping. So super, super cool. And let's see. Okay. So I promise we're getting to the end here. All right. So the last one I want to talk about is a future business, that is called, let's see, where is it? Called Era Ventures. So we're going to put that in here. This will be a business as well that's owned by the Purpose Trust. And it's a future investment hub and venture studio hub that will be owned by the Purpose Trust. The Venture Hub invests in aligned businesses, and the studio creates and internally funds the businesses that the movement needs, and yet they don't exist yet. So what's cool about that is that it starts creating, that alignment, because here's the alignment pathway off of Era Ventures, and money can kind of flow both ways because we can bring money from the commons to invest in businesses, and the profits from that business that are now, because this is owned by the Purpose Trust, so technically they're owned by the Purpose Trust, which is owned by no one, those profits flow back into the commons. So this is how it's similar to this part right here. It's like, this is how we start creating that self-perpetuating flow of funding so that we're not always having to go for philanthropy or like hope somebody's gonna sign up for something. It's like, we've got to get out of that because nobody really wants to be in that, and yet that's just how it is right now. So this whole thing is just allowing us to start stepping back into like the excitement of all being supported together and getting to do what we're passionate about, and being supported in doing that with community. So, and what's cool too is like when a business ends up being, because it can be purchased, invested in or gifted to the Purpose Trust, not only does it perpetually fund the commons, and so therefore regeneration of all life, but it also prevents extraction, because how many businesses have we seen that we're like, oh, that's such a cool business, and then they get noticed, and then like they get bought out, and then they get sucked into this big corporate conglomerate structure, and then it's going to shareholders, and it's just like leaking off of this once really well-intentioned business, And a lot of these, regenerative startups, they're looking for something like this. And it's like, yeah, we can do that. And you're not alone. Like, we can do all this cool support stuff and all these cool things. And as we build out the commons as well, like this is going, like I was saying, this holds like story sharing entities as well that can be supported this way, podcasters and whatever, artists, the things that we really need, musicians, to really tell and feel the story of what's emerging, and the current system experts that can really be helping. And so that's a way that like you have something like, just to be able to see it, like say this is like, we've talked about creating like an era media house that would be held by the Purpose Trust. And this could be like a lot of creative people doing various aspects that are, in alignment, but they also can be funded from here. And then they're also sharing, the resources and stories that really help us keep going and co-create this narrative as we move out of this current extractive system. And the same thing with like the current system experts, for example, like legal, lawyers and finance and all these things that are like the current systems that we're needing that bridge of like, how do we create this connection? So current experts, current system experts. And this is a similar thing here where the Commons Fund can support these people and their work is flowing into the Commons, because remember also this Purpose Trust can hold IP. So if you're doing something that you're like, man, I really don't want this to be co-opted, it can be held here, as we build this thing out, there's going to be, various levels of council governance and wisdom councils and all these things, so that we are making sure that we're always staying aligned and with that North Star of moving back into relationship and with regeneration with all life. And so, yeah, it's really cool because with the Era Ventures and businesses here, it just prevents that ability or that possibility for a business to be diluted and then for those profits to be redirected into a shareholder realm. And instead, they cycle back into here. So to tie this all together, what I love about this is that because it is based in the wisdom of nature, it cannot fail. The only way it fails is if we don't do it. That's it. So, look at this thing. Is this not like so freaking fun and exciting? Like, I'm just like, it blows my mind, like how this thing is coming together. It is so, so exciting. And so this is the most complete picture that we've had so far of this ecosystem, and it's always emerging and it's always evolving. And the way that we've been staying with that is to always be following the energy. It's like, what is ready right now? What feels alive? What feels aligned? Alignment is so critical. And so it allows us to move forward together, and it's working brilliantly because it's just allowing like these new, like, oh my God, we could do this, we could do that. This is how it gets like fully supported and insulated inside of this ecosystem that keeps it from being, moving back into extraction. It can protect land and waters that need protection. There's so much we can do with this. And a lot of it came from when I learned the 4 main ecosystem processes from being trained with holistic management with Savory Institute. And when you look at energy flow, water cycles, community dynamics, and mineral cycle, like that all happens here. Like energy flow, I'm really seeing that a lot as funding, but also human energy. And it's drawing it back into the commons where it started forever ago. And so it's moving energy back into the commons, and then everything that's happening, whether it's on a hyperlocal bioregional level or it's on a larger level, it's mimicking the hydrologic cycles on the planet, large and small, and they feed into each other. Then when you look at community dynamics, when you learn about that in holistic management, it's around like doing holistic planned grazing, which is how you move ruminant animals in relationship with more arid areas like grasslands, and it's mimicking their movement to be what it would be without all the fencing barriers and roads in the way and everything, when we used to have huge herds of like bison moving across the plains and they were being pushed by predators. So it's a very specific kind of movement that the grasslands co-evolved with. That's what creates water holding capacity and the soil health and all of this stuff that also creates the carbon drawdown and the nutrient cycling and the water cycles. I mean, it's all, once I saw all of that interconnection, I'm like, oh my gosh, we can totally create a system that does this. And so anyway, it just translates beautifully into the same principles that are at the core of ERA, which is closed loop, relational, and regenerative. And it never ends because it just moves us back into the cycles of life. And so, yeah, I'm excited about the fact that even though this seems like a lot, what's interesting is that when we re-enter the complexity of nature and out of the current complicated, siloed, competitive way that we're currently functioning in this industrial system, when we move back into nature's complexity, everything simplifies, because now you've got all of the support and flows of energy that are needed to sustain the ecosystem, and different, both the ecology and humans are getting to do what they are meant to do, what they co-evolved to do, because it moves us back into those ways of being on Mother Earth and with each other that are how life happened, right? So it's really cool, because it's like, yeah, it looks like a lot, but it actually is really, it simplifies stuff. And it's really fun. Oh my God, the networks of people that we're working with, it just blows my mind how cool this is. So just next steps and upcoming content stuff. We're going to be doing individual deep dive videos for each node so that you can really see like the nitty gritty of each one and like how they're emerging right now. And also please make sure you're signed up for the ERA newsletter. If you just go on earthregenerationalliance.com, which is probably where you're finding this video. But anyway, sign up for the newsletter. It's at the bottom of each page. And also you could subscribe to the ERA YouTube channel as well, because then you'll get alerts when we publish these next videos. And I think that is it. So just thank you so much for hanging on with me through this. And I hope that this like gives you a feeling of like a sigh of relief. It's like, no, we're not doing everything, but we see this ecosystem that is emerging through all of the networks and learning and conversations that we've had. And it's like, you know, somebody we're close to who's heading up a really amazing, really working to start up a bioregional financing facility. She's needing the support to do the invisible work of getting this going, just like food hubs. It's like every single node, especially like these two, because we've moved out of this way of being with food and with more hyperlocal governance, that these really struggle to gain the kind of funding support that they need, because it's so new and different, and it's very invisible work, because it's more this like weaving of relationships and getting all the different things ready to go to stand this up. And so it's the same for this. It's like once it's going, it's gonna go. And it's just really exciting, because it's like if we can help hold the various infrastructures and the collaborative things as we all co-create this together to be able to do, you know, what is emerging, which is the BFFs, which is how we move back into that sovereignty and security and community support, and the ability to fund like immediate regeneration projects that also need to be happening. We can move very quickly with this, because the way nature functions means we can scale out quickly. We're not scaling up. It's just figure out what works here, try it, and modify as we need to, like going through holistic context and decision-making structures. And then we try that somewhere else and we make tweaks based on that context, you know? So it just gives us a blueprint to work with, and it can go at any level, right? It's like fractals. It can scale out and be very dynamic and flexible, because it's based in relationship. So anyway, once again, thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next videos.